I have seen so many comments from you guys asking me to make this video. So finally today, I am going to teach you the 30 most useful English idioms about life with examples, and I promise you, after watching this video, you will never forget these idioms because the way I teach you guys is different. All right, let's start. Okay, before starting this lesson, please subscribe if you have subscribed yet, because it really motivates me to keep on teaching you guys. And if you are new here, please download the podcast from the link in the description below, because there you will find the complete version of this episode without music and extra stuff, and also the PDF file of all the vocabulary and idioms that I am going to teach you in this episode. So let's begin. Okay, the first idiom is when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. This means when you face difficulties or bad situations, try to turn them into opportunities. For example, when my flight was canceled and I missed my important meeting, I thought I should just go to the hotel and rest. But then I realized that I could use this time to work on my presentation, and I ended up finishing it earlier than everyone else. So sometimes bad situations can be turned into opportunities if you know how to deal with them. That's why when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. The next idiom is every cloud has a silver lining. This means no matter how bad your situation is, there is always something good about it. When I was studying at university, we had exams every week, and I used to feel so stressed. However, I knew that I would be proud of myself when I finish my exams and get good grades. Why I didn't feel too stressed, because I knew that there was something positive waiting for me after those difficult exams. And by the way, if you want to download the PDF of this episode, you can do that through the link in the description. You can also get the podcast file from there. All right. The third one is at the end of the day. This is an idiom that we use to refer to the most important thing. Like, for example, at the end of the day, what matters the most is your happiness. Or, at the end of the day, the most important thing is to help those who need our assistance. All right, the next idiom is a blessing in disguise. This is something that seems bad at first, but actually turns out to be good. Let me tell you a story. My wife and I were planning to go on vacation to Italy, but we couldn't because of COVID. At first, we were disappointed, but then we decided to go to Greece instead. And we had such a great time there that now we think that getting COVID was actually a blessing in disguise. Because if we hadn't gone to Greece, we wouldn't have had the chance to visit the beautiful islands there. Okay, the next idiom is a piece of cake. This means something is very easy to do. For example, you can say this exam was a piece of cake. It was so simple. Or this was a piece of cake. I finished the project in just 2 hours. By the way, after each idiom, I'm going to give you a quiz question so that you can check your understanding. And at the end of the video, if you answer all the questions correctly, I'm going to give you a small gift. Okay, what was the quiz question? All right, the next idiom is you can't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge people or things based on their appearance, because you may be wrong. I remember when I was young, I used to think that rich people were selfish and greedy. But then I met some rich people who were kind and generous, and I realized that I should unjudge people by their wealth. So when you see someone, don't judge him or her based on what you think. Instead, talk to them and get to know them better. Okay, the next one is easier said than done. Something is much harder to do than it sounds. For example, you can say, "Oh, it's so easy. Just study more." But actually, it's easier said than done. Studying more requires more time, money, and effort, which can be challenging to arrange. All right, the next idiom is on cloud nine. This means to be extremely happy. Like, for example, when I got accepted to the university I wanted to go to, I was on cloud nine. Or when she won the lottery, she felt like she was on cloud nine. Okay. The next one is once in a blue moon. This means something happens rarely. Like, for example, I go to the cinema once in a blue moon. I do I really like going there. Or we go to the beach once in a blue moon because it's so far away from where we live. All right, the next idiom is it takes two to tango. This means both people involved in a disagreement are responsible for it. You cannot blame only one person for the fight. Both sides are to blame. Okay, the next one is curiosity killed the cat. This means being too curious or nosy can cause problems. Let me tell you a story. I had a neighbor who was so nosy and he would ask us why we were coming home late or why we were leaving early. And one day, he even asked us why we had a big fight. And since that day, we started keeping our doors closed when we talked about private matters. All right, the next one is let the cat out of the bag. This means to reveal a secret. Let me give you an example. I wanted to surprise my wife by making her favorite meal. But then our son let the cat out of the bag, and my wife knew what I was planning to do. All right, the next idiom is let sleeping dogs lie. This means if something is not causing any trouble, don't go looking for it. One day while I was tidying up my garage, I found some old documents that I had forgotten about. And although they weren't really important, I was thinking of giving them to my lawyer, just in case they might become important in the future. But then I thought, no, let sleeping dogs lie. Why dig up old documents if they aren't causing any trouble right now? All right, the next idiom is bite the bullet. This means to face a difficult situation bravely. For example, when I had an accident, I had to bite the bullet and accept the fact that I would be able to walk for a few months. Or when you go to the dentist and you have to pull out a tooth, you have to bite the bullet and endure the pain. All right. The next idiom is a thorn in one's side. This is something or someone that annoys you. Let me give you an example. The noise of construction work is a thorn in my side. It's been going on for weeks and it's driving me crazy. Or if there's a mosquito buzzing around you when you're trying to sleep, it can be a real thorn in your side. All right. The next idiom is under the weather. This means to feel sick or unwell. If you say, oh, I'm under the weather today, it means I'm feeling sick. All right, the next idiom is to get on someone's nerves. To annoy someone. For example, if your classmate keeps on making fun of you during class, you can say, he's getting on my nerves. All right, the next one is a laughing stock. Something or someone that is funny, but in a way that makes you feel embarrassed. For example, if you go to a party wearing the same outfit as everyone else, you can say, oh, I look like a laughing stock. Or if you try to make a joke and it's not funny at all, you can say you made a laughing stock of yourself. All right, the next idiom is kick the bucket. This is a very informal expression that means to die. Please don't use it in formal conversations. All right, the next idiom is cost an arm and a leg. This means something is very expensive. For example, you can say buying a house in this city costs an arm and a leg. It's too expensive. Or you can say this, surgery cost me an arm and a leg, but it saved my life. All right, the next idiom is cry wolf. This means to warn people about danger, but when they come to help you, you actually don't need their help. Let me tell you a story. We have a farm and one day, my son called me and said there was a wolf attacking the sheep. So I went there with a stick to save the sheep, but it turned out that he was just kidding. And that's why I told him, don't cry wolf unless there's really a wolf attacking the sheep. Okay, the next idiom is spill the beans. This means to reveal a secret. Let me give you an example. I wanted to surprise my wife by proposing to her, but then our friend spilled the beans and my wife knew what I was planning to do. All right, the next idiom is a bitter pill to swallow. This is something that is unpleasant, but must be accepted. For example, after the accident, accepting the fact that I would never be able to run again was a bitter pill to swallow. Or when you find out that your best friend is actually your enemy, it's a bitter pill to swallow. All right, the next idiom is butter someone up. This is to treat someone very nicely in order to get something from them. For example, if you want your boss to give you a raise, you can butter him up by praising his leadership skills, or butter him up by bringing him coffee or tea. All right, the next idiom is hit the sack. This is a very informal expression. That means to go to sleep. You can say, oh, I'm so tired. I'm gonna hit the sack now. All right, the next idiom is look down on someone. This means to think that you are better than the other person. For example, if you are richer than your friend, you shouldn't look down on him. Remember, money doesn't make you a better human being. And the last idiom is look for greener pastures. This is to search for something better. For example, if you are unhappy with your job, you can look for greener pastures and try to find another job. Or if you are unhappy in your marriage, you can look for greener pastures and get a divorce. And here is your quiz. What is the opposite of the idiom? Look down on someone. If you want to get the answer, please comment below. And if you want the answers of all the idioms, please download the PDF file from the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Please share it with your friends and family